Live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to this Thursday, which we refer to call Friday Eve. It's Friday Eve. You are almost to the weekend. We're getting there one step at a time, and glad you're there. And Big Rig is on the board. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey. How's it going?
All good?
Yeah, all good.
All right. All the buttons to be pushed today are before you. Nice. All right. Hey, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. Coming up at 3 o'clock, Emily Jones from Moms for Liberty in Madison is going to be on the show, updating on some things they've been working on. And, oh, by the way, they've got a major event this weekend with Riley Gaines coming in as a speaker. I'm looking forward to being there with them. So, yeah, 3 o'clock today, Emily Jones from Moms for Liberty on the show. And then at 3:30, you know the deal. It's Thursday, man. That means we got our running segment, Butters and Lee. So Butters will be joining us, Lee from Huntsville joining us, and we will have Butters and Lee at 3:30. And then I still got a triple dipper, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. Number 1, I'm getting to it today. I'm doing it first. Turning left on Israel. I've had this sitting on the desk for the last 2 days, and I keep adding more to it because I can't get to it because the content we've had over the last few days has been so full. I mean, we've had congressmen and senators and, you know, the Grand Council and all this stuff going on for days and days and lots of news and breaking news. And you know what? I put it first today. We're going to get Turning Left on Israel. And I got some great audio from General Jack Keane to play for you as well. And then number 2, and I added to this one too, I didn't get to kakistocracy yesterday. And I'm pretty sure it got worse since then. Kakistocracy, you may recall, is a word, an actual word. Look it up in your dictionary. Kakistocracy, spelled with a K. It stands for a government run by the least competent of its citizens. Oh, and I got massive examples. So kakistocracy is number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, timing's everything. Yeah, we're going to talk about some stuff to include the fact that the Alabama State House this morning just rammed through, and I don't mean like a little bit, I mean like rammed through a major piece of gambling legislation. The same distorted piece of, you know, horrible legislation that violates every Republican precept that I talked about for the last several days. Well, they just like brought it out with less than 2 hours of debate. Shabam! About half the Republicans joined with all the Democrats, and they passed that thing on, and we'll see where it goes. All right, listen, that's a full show, and nonetheless, I've got more to go to include the Right Side Way monologue. So let me jump onto that real quick, and I'll just remind you guys, the Right Side Way monologue, the daily monologue, sponsored for you by Southern Immediate Care. Southern Immediate Care, a chain of clinics that covers a huge swath of ground across our otherwise overly broad listening area. Yeah, Southern Immediate Care with places like Gadsden, Anniston, Atala, 6 more locations around the Birmingham area. Y'all, they are doing an epic good job at treating people and giving them the medical attention they need. They'll do it for all ages, 7 days a week. Southern Immediate Care, sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue. All right, let me just start off here and say this is going to be like a conversation of guns and politics all at one time. Some years ago when I was running for office, I actually had a local Tea Party that called and asked me to come and speak to their group. And I got up there. They were meeting in the back room of a gun shop. And I walked in, and like the place is like covered up in guns, and then lots of good salt of the earth folks sitting there. And I stepped in, I said, my gosh, guns and politics, this is awesome. Well, they don't always mix. But elections, y'all, elections have consequences. Lord, don't we know that to be true? And so do elections where they don't follow the election laws, but that's another story. But let's just stick with the fact that Biden is still in the Oval Office and that Republicans could hardly even get themselves over the finish line in the last midterm elections. So here we are. And elections, well, they have consequences. And right now the consequences are very, very serious, even ominous. But we still have plenty of room to straighten this out. We do. but only if we remember to clear the malfunction and reload. If you've ever had any experience at all with firearms, you know what it means to reload. In military training, there's two forms of reloading. There's the kind that comes from realizing the chamber is now empty, and there's the kind that comes from taking advantage of a pause in the shooting to make sure your chamber never gets empty. In any event, you train on reloading almost as much as you do on accuracy. And then you also train on correcting a malfunction, or as it's sometimes called, clearing a stoppage. You're firing your weapon. Suddenly you have a jam, a misfire, a crossload. What do? You clear the weapon, check the chamber, reload, re-engage. In basic training, a soldier will spend almost as much time training how to load, unload, and clear a malfunction as he or she will on putting rounds on target. Why? Because how accurate you are means absolutely nothing if you can't keep your weapon system ready and functional. If you can't get a round ready to fire, if you can't put a malfunctioning weapon back into service, then all you have is what we call a fire and forget weapon system. So in the military vernacular, a fire and forget is just what it sounds like. It's a single-use, one-shot weapon. You shoot it one time, discard the tube. One and done. Go get another one because that one served its purpose. You may have seen the bazooka in old war movies, right? A tube that fired a rocket-propelled explosive, and once it was fired, you could reload it and fire again. Well, one of the closest examples we have to the modern bazooka is called a LAW, an LAW, a light anti-tank weapon. And a LAW is actually a fire and forget weapon. Both of them fired a round that was comparable to the other, but once the LAW was fired, that tube became dead weight, no further use. It was a fire and forget weapon, one and done. Go get another one. So why am I telling you all this? It's an analogy. You see, here's the thing. I don't want the United States of America to be a fire and forget nation. Think about it. One and done. Go get another one. In the grand scheme of things, the U.S. is still a fairly young country on the world stage, not quite 250 years old. There are apartment buildings in Europe that are older than our nation. 1/3 of our states were added to the Union just in the second half of our short existence. The most recent ones, Hawaii and Alaska, were still territories during World War II. But despite our relatively young status, we are still a force to be reckoned with militarily. We have an industrial complex that is far greater than half the world combined. We have a gross domestic product that is the envy of the world. We have resources beyond compare. We have military strength that's greater than any other. We have land on a scale that is epic in size. And most importantly, we have rights. We have rights, actual liberties, the ability to know that we as citizens of the United States, we can expect our every day to have some measure of success, if for no other reason than the fact that we have these certain inalienable rights that no one is supposed to be able to take away. And right now, there's a movement afoot, both from external and internal forces, to diminish who we are both as a nation and a people. So the question before us now is whether we're going to be able to clear this malfunction and reload and re-engage, or if America's going to turn out to be a fire and forget nation. So yesterday a report came out that's getting some press, but is also being overlooked by many. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee announced that he and other members of the committee had just received a classified briefing on some type of external threat that was so concerning that he immediately and publicly called upon the administration to declassify it, make the details of the threat known to the general public. Why would he do that? Classified briefings are generally classified for a reason. Well, there's also ample reason to believe that on any given day, some bad actor wants to drop a bomb on the U.S., so what was it about this one that made the congressman sound the alarm? There are some reports that are saying sources have revealed that it has to do with a plan by Russia to put nuclear weapons in space, with the possibility of destroying U.S. communications and GPS satellite systems. And yes, that would absolutely rock our world. So the Intel Committee chairman obviously believes the Biden administration is likely incapable of addressing the threat, and he wants it out there so the world can prepare. It's a question of being able to reload and re-engage as a nation. And then I look at things like cultural issues. Even within our own borders, illegal mass migration is changing the landscape of major swaths of American population centers. Concern is rising about the ability to sustain essential services and to absorb the mass influx of people who arrive without a common language or a means to support themselves. Crime, disease, strains on the systems, unrest in U.S. communities that are facing the massive influx of illegals, all of which are straining our systems. We need to clear that malfunction. We need to get our systems back in play. And what about morals? Is there a moral decay in America right now? Some may say it's just a developing trend of modern society, but I would say no, it's not. What we are seeing right now is true rot, actual malfunctions. When men want to dress as women and dance provocatively in front of children, we don't have a new modern trend. We have moral rot. When protesters believe that destroying history and tearing down statues and defacing art is a means of expression, that doesn't signal new and developing trends in public sentiment. It denotes actual rot at the core of who we are as a people. When churches are ordered by government to shut their doors or risk having their pastors arrested, when businesses are shut down and people are paid not to work, those are protections against a pandemic? Actually, they're indications that liberty took a backseat to authority, and they are cancerous rot. And we must be able to clear those malfunctions. And as quickly as a soldier can clear their weapon, we must reload for the next shot and be able to re-engage the enemy. So think about it. What good is a weapon if you cannot put it to use at the proper time? And don't think that just because it can shoot once means that you're going to stay in the fight. A good soldier must be able to clear a malfunction without pausing, without even looking, and reload that weapon and re-engage the target. So America, as a nation, must be able to do the same. We must clear the malfunctions that are degrading our national security from external sources, restore the cultural and moral issues that are causing our nation's malfunctions from within. We must reload and re-engage, because we cannot allow America to become a fire and forget nation. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Serious topic, y'all. Serious topic. A lot going on. This is why I did the monologue yesterday first on the fact that in the midst of the storms, God can give you peace enough to sleep, and to sleep in a sustaining way. But I had to come in today and acknowledge some things. We are facing right now internal and external threats that I think that threaten the very fabric of our society. And if we don't get a grip on it and clear that malfunction and reload, we will not make it through the next engagement. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Like saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, text lines are open. Some of y'all have already discovered that. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. Same number for both. Love to hear your thoughts on the monologue. The idea of I refuse to sit idly by and let America become a fire and forget nation if I can do anything at all about it. I can't anyway. Charlie from Huntsville just texted in. He says, Phil, I just heard before you came on that Senator Schumer says that Biden is as sharp as ever. I assume that means he's no worse than he used to be. As sharp as ever. I get it. Nice. Well played, Charlie. Keith from Parts Unknown. That was a great monologue. Glad you said it needs to be repeated. Glad you said it needs to be repeated by a true lover of America in D.C. All right. Thank you, sir. Robert from Athens. Dear Colonel Phil, conservatives are not aware of how violent and dishonest the Democrats truly are. If we have a free and fair election in November and Trump wins, the leftists will riot to destroy the republic. If they cheat again to secure all power, our republic will be lost. People cannot vote themselves free. Liberty is seized, but so is tyranny. What's the answer? The answer is go to the polls anyway, man. I'm just saying. Robert C., thanks for the text, by the way. You go to the polls. You do everything in your power to correct the malfunction. You know, when you have a malfunctioning weapon, I'm going to try to stretch the analogy a little bit. When you have a malfunctioning weapon, you don't yell at it. It does no good. You got to apply the same techniques that you were trained to do and that you hopefully have muscle memory on how to do. You know, with the M16, now the M4 rifle, it was sports. You know, slap, pull, observe, release, tap, squeeze. I can still say it. Drill sergeant hammered it into our minds. You will look at that weapon right now. You have a malfunction. What do? You apply sports. Slap, pull, observe, release, tap, squeeze. And folks, I'm just telling you, if we had sat there and yelled at it, stared at it, hoped for it, prayed over it, it would not be the same thing as applying the corrective action that's necessary. So, Robert, to answer your question, I'm getting really deep in the weeds on this analogy, I know, but the bottom line is this. The very first line of defense is you go and you vote. And you vote and you tell your friends to vote and you drive your friends to the polls and help them vote and you remind people to vote and you send text messages to vote and you get out the vote and if necessary you go to other states and you knock on doors and ask them to vote and you do all the things it takes to make the election go the way it needs to go. And then barring that, if that doesn't happen, then you begin the resistance from the inside, which is where we are right now, by the way. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance. Just saying. If you're listening to this, it means you're already dialed into the idea of wanting to know what to think, to do, how best to express your concerns, and this show exists for that very reason. I call it the 4 E's. Every single day, I hope you listen to the show, and somehow in it, you're going to get the 4 E's. We're going to educate, enlighten, empower, and entertain you on what it means to be a conservative walking around in this crazy world. So yeah, Robert C., engage the processes, brother, because we're not going to see armed revolution be a winnable opportunity. Not. I do believe that there could be civil unrest, but let it be isolated instances and not like the call for overthrowing tyrannical government. We're not talking about that. You work from within the process as best you can right now. All right, that being said, there's my little diatribe. John from Huntsville. Phil, awesome monologue. Enjoyed my box of Russell Stover chocolates. Good, man. I'm glad. Happy Valentine's Day to you a day late. He said, but I decided it would probably be best if I didn't eat the entire box, so I still have some for today. I also look forward to another fantastic episode of Butters and Lee. Thanks, John. Appreciate you, man. JT, Lacey Springs says, that monologue caused me to ask, since so many Confederate monuments have been removed and military installation names changed, how are things better? I'm pretty sure they didn't do anything except make some other people's virtue signaling appear to have merit. Because I'm almost positive that there's nobody going, I feel so much better now that it's called Fort Liberty. Or, I'm so glad the statue of Thomas Jefferson was taken down. I mean, it's just, it's to the point of being ludicrous. And you're going to wind up having to have other states do what Alabama did, which is pass a Monuments Protection Act. And then you're going to wind up having to have things like what Senator Chris Elliott's doing in the Alabama State House right now, passing legislation so that our state archives won't revise history or get too far afield from their charter. I mean, yeah. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to elect good people. And today's a heck of a day for me to say that because I am super frustrated with some of whom I call friends in the state legislature who, in my opinion, just rolled over and kissed some raggedy tail today. It's awful. And I'll tell you more about that as we get going. All right, listen, we got plenty on tap. I'm going to come right back, and we're going to do some Israel discussion first. I told you we do the local, the state, the national, and the international. We got to talk about this because, in my opinion, one of the biggest international stories right now is what's happening on the far side of the world: Israel, Gaza, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. It's still a flashpoint. And the mere fact that we're going to spend a lot of our day talking about Fonnie Willis and whether or not she had a relationship with her paramour and is trying to prosecute Trump, that's got nothing to do with the fact that on the far side of the world, people are fighting and dying and hostages are being held in tunnels in a nation that nowhere in Scripture did it say that God ever lifted his hand and made them any other than his chosen people. All right, folks, y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one right here, Alabama. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. It goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, even Mississippi all thrown in, just for good measure. All right, so I'm jumping on this topic. Number one, we'll spend the next half hour on this-ish. Turning left on Israel. Okay, play on words, but we have a turning left on Israel. The left is turning on Israel. Think of it how you want to, but the bottom line is this. For some reason, all of a sudden, Israel is falling out of favor. Why? Because the overly progressive left is suddenly beginning to wear down the moderate left, and they don't know what to do about it. They're stuck in this place of like, wait, you're screaming free Palestine? Wait, you're protesting my house? Wait, you mean y'all are protesting Democrats? I don't know how to handle this. I thought you only protested Republicans. That's where we are right now. It's sad. Clearly indicates a lack of spine, to be honest. But at the same time, you look at it and go, my gosh, y'all, if somebody had looked at us after 9/11 as a nation and said, you need to back off, we'd have laughed. We would have told them what they could do with their opinions. We would have literally just kind of given them a sideways glance and then moved on through as we saw fit. And right now, Israel's in a position where they lost more people per capita than we did on 9/11 as a nation. When you've got, how much was it? Was it 1,300-ish people were killed in Israel on October 7th of last year? And when you consider the population base of Israel and you compare that to the several thousand that we lost on 9/11, and then compare that to the population of the United States, it's a much higher per capita rate for Israel, if you know what I'm saying. And oh, by the way, yes, ours was horrible, and I am not minimizing 9/11. 9/11 changed my life, I can tell you that. But what I am saying is this. It was an entirely kind of different dynamic. No one blew up a building and watched people die in the melee. You had roving bands of thugs calling themselves freedom fighters who were raping, pillaging, decapitating babies, and doing this on a wanton sort scale. It was everywhere. Whole communities were touched by this. That 1,300 or so that were killed, it didn't just happen right there in that one spot, and everybody goes, man, that happened over there? No, it was all over the place. There were whole kibbutzes and communities that were ravaged. And even those that didn't die, there were those who were injured and scarred, and then a couple hundred taken hostage. Who does that? Dragged away into the Gaza Strip, taken down into tunnels. No, not the fighting age, not police officers and soldiers, no. Women, children, elderly and infirm, dragged down into the tunnels to be held as human shields. Having said all that, just to remind you of the import of where we are, having said all that, I also find it galling the idea that this was our ally. This is not a nation that we are sometimes aligned with, during UN meetings and, that we have some trade relations with. This is Israel. The very first country to recognize Israel as a nation was the United States. The very first state within the states of the United States of America that recognized Israel was Alabama. Look it up. Alabama, the very first to recognize the sovereign state of Israel. This is the oasis in the Middle East. This is the democratic nation of Israel. And this is, oh, by the way, the biblical seat of much of our, faith-based systems. Think about it. There's a lot going on that centers on Israel that we all relate to. Our Judeo-Christian ethics spring from that land. So yeah, all that to say, what the heck is going on with the libs right now? So here's one for you. I got a piece that I pulled off of frontpagemagazine.com Biden warns Israel not to enter Rafah. So if you're not familiar, Israel is at war with Hamas, the Iranian proxy group that is like the shadow government of the Palestinian Authority. And this is the Gaza Strip, which is along the Red Sea, and it's got millions of people crammed into an area that's about half the size of Huntsville. And within that, there's Gaza City, and there's Rafah, and there's Khan Yunis, I believe, the three major communities, if I'm not mistaken. So Rafah is where the next expected offensive was going to take place. And they've been leveling, by the way, leveling, Israel has, leveling whole sections of the Gaza Strip. They're turning it into a parking lot. I don't blame them. Salt the earth, man. But yet in the middle of it all, you've got President Biden saying that he is warning Israel not to go into Rafah. Well, Israel did anyway. Story here, this came out on the 12th. Today's the 15th, so it's 3 days ago. FrontPageMagazine.com. After months of fighting, Hamas had been forced to fall back to its stronghold in Rafah on the Egyptian border, and the pressure on Israel not to go into Rafah then intensified. Not only did AOC and Bernie Sanders have some, why do we care? Anyway, but Biden warned Israel not to go in because of what he called the, quote, humanitarian impact. But Israel went in anyway and rescued 2 hostages. Oh, takes on a whole different flavor, doesn't it? Yep, 2 gentlemen identified by their first names, Louis and Fernando, were held by armed Hamas terrorists who were present in the building. You had Israeli special operations went in through the roof of the building, detonated a bomb to breach. Actually, they did a breaching charge, is what it's called. Breached the door on the second floor, went down through, eliminated the Hamas guards, rescued the 2 men, and got them out. But yet Biden's going to say, don't go into Rafah. It could be a humanitarian, crisis. Humanitarian? It was thugs holding innocent civilians hostage. Story here on Fox News, same date. Biden meets with Jordanian King Abdullah, calls for Israel to work to achieve a peace deal. So Biden is now calling on Israel to back off. He wants a 6-week ceasefire. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Biden met with Jordanian monarch to discuss the ongoing war between Israel and the terror group, as well as how to bring about a peace agreement. The key elements of the deal are on the table. There are gaps that remain, said Biden, but I've encouraged my voice sounds far too animated for him. The key elements are on the table. There are gaps that remain. That's more likely the way he said it. I heard him say it. But I've encouraged Israeli leaders, he says, to keep working to achieve the deal. Biden and the king also discussed Israel's military offensive in Rafah. He said the operation should not occur without a credible plan for ensuring the safety and support of the more than 1 million Palestinians sheltering there who are exposed and vulnerable. Does he know who he's talking to? I got an audio clip of General Jack Keane. And I tell you what, Big Rig, I want to go to this audio clip right now. Listen. So here's the deal. General Jack Keane, I've been saying this kind of thing, but he says it, and I think his authority carries a great deal of weight. Listen to what he has to say about that very thing, about whether or not Israel is doing what it can to minimize collateral damage with civilians. Go ahead and play it.
Or the now more than 1 million civilians that are seeking refuge down there.
General, what is that relationship like? I mean, to what degree are we involved in those immediate decisions and long-term planning for Israel on the ground there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sandra. I think the relationship is one word: tense. And yes, we certainly have our thoughts about these operations, and we've had them right from the beginning. I push back on our minders, so to speak, and let the Israelis conduct operations as they see fit based on the intelligence that they have, and don't get into the tactical desires here on how to conduct an operation. Certainly, expressing to the Israelis our concern about the civilian population and taking every measure possible to do that is something that's appropriate, but it's also something that the Israelis are guided by. I mean, we've watched the Israelis tell the people in northern Gaza to evacuate and head south, and here's the route to take, and move in that direction, and there'll be some humanitarian assistance for you. Then when they moved into the central or southern part of Gaza, where Khan Yunis was the principal city there, they took a different approach, and they told the people they drew up a map and numbered it and told them to move from one number to another to avoid air bombing and also ground operations. At the same time, clearly flagging to Hamas, where the next operation was going to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Israelis are not cavalier about this. I mean, we go back to the basic problem from the beginning. I don't have a frame of reference for war being conducted on the ground with this level of intensity and in the air with a civilian population in residence to this magnitude. Normally, when the sound of the guns get close to a city or a town, the people do what? They flee.
Yeah.
They get out of there unless they're infirmed or there's some other option or they're just bullheaded and want to ride it out. But that has not been able to happen here because the Gazans are prisoners of Hamas.
Okay,
they
stop it
want
there.
the casualties.
Go ahead, stop it there. That's what an amazing description. And by the way, part of my military background is in what's called civil affairs. It's a part of special operations that deals with civilians in the battle space. So I can just tell you, I've been trained in what's known as displaced civilian operations, DCOs. I've been trained in what it means to set up humanitarian corridors to get civilians out of the battle space. I can distinctly recall in Baghdad, as we were talking about taking an area called Sadr City, which was just a cesspool of militia, and we were going to turn that into a parking lot. And we had a whole operation under 1st Brigade Combat Team of the 1st Armored Division called Operation Iron Hammer, and we were going to flatten Sadr City. And in doing so, we had to. Part of my job was the displaced civilian operations planning. How are we going to get civilians? Because it was crammed full of people. How are we going to get civilians out of the way? And the only way to do it is you begin telegraphing to the enemy too, where are the safe passages? Here's where you can go to get out and to get away and to get relief. Here's what you can do to avoid death and destruction. Israel is doing that. Israel's doing things like dropping smoke bombs on a building and coming back an hour later to bomb the building because a smoke bomb was designed to warn people this is about to be a target. Everybody knew what it was. They're doing leaflet drops. They're doing broadcasts. They're doing loudspeakers. And they're telling, and they have no choice. To avoid the civilian casualties as best they can, they're even having to basically tell Hamas where we're about to hit next. And then President Biden says, you need to have a 6-week ceasefire. We need to get, this is, so, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at it. Even Representative Jamal Bowman, the guy who tripped the fire alarm in the Capitol building, that guy, Democrat from New York, story on the Daily Wire. He comes out and scolds Israel. Why? In his words, while we watched the Super Bowl, Netanyahu launched a wave of attacks and killed innocent civilians in Rafah. What in God's name is a Super Bowl? Oh, I'm sorry. It's Super Bowl night. Could we please not have a war? I mean, I'm so sorry that war and death is happening to you, Representative Jamal, while you were trying to watch your football game. Why is the left turning on Israel like this? We'll dissect it after this break. We'll take a break right now. We'll come right back. I'm in number 1 of the Triple Dipper, turning left on Israel. Yeah. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. So I'm doing this segment right here, and don't forget, by the way, top of the hour, we're going to switch gears and we'll have Emily Jones from Moms for Liberty calling in. But right now I'm talking about the left is turning on Israel. Why is that? I mean, as the right has gotten kind of sour on Ukraine's spending at the very least, is this tit for tat? Well, if you're going to get sour on Ukraine, we're going to get sour on Israel. I don't know. I don't know what this is. And I also look at it too, and it almost, I'll be honest with you, it feels like something spiritual. I mean, you look at it and go, is it just because they're Israel? They're God's chosen people, and so therefore you're not, I don't know. What the heck? I mean, I look at this and think, this has got weird markings all over it. They were the ones who were attacked. Anyway, I really believe that a big chunk of what this is you're looking at liberals who are not used to being the ones who get protested. And so they are now divided amongst themselves. And they did not expect in an election year to have to deal with their own side, so to speak, rioting in the streets, coming to their campaign events with signs, standing outside their house, throwing eggs at them, and that's happening. All that's happening. They didn't expect that. They thought this would be, and oh, by the way, the people that are protesting them really thought the liberals would just do whatever we want to do because that's the way it works, right? We protest and you answer. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is unsure of what to do now. Story on AP came out February 9th. It'd be last Friday. It says the White House on Friday sought to downplay sharp criticism levied against Israel by President Joe Biden and senior national security officials over how Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government has conducted his 4-month-old war. 4 months. It's 4 months. It's a mere 4 months. Meanwhile, we're like 2 years into Ukraine, still sending them billions. And they're calling us anti-patriotic because we're starting to question the whole motive behind it. But here I'm looking at this situation where now major leaks are coming out, not just a little bit, like this one. It says, speaking to reporters Thursday evening, Biden called Israel's military operations in Gaza over the top. And then on Friday, the New York Times reported it had obtained a recording in which the president's deputy principal national security advisor, John Feiner, expressed a, quote, lack of confidence in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing government. Okay, first of all. Then it was the White House National Security Council did confirm that Feiner's comments were accurate. Okay. How did the leaked audio come out? Where did it come from? Was this said in a bar? Or was this said in a National Security Council meeting? Because you got the principal deputy national security advisor being recorded saying things about Allied leadership and expressing a lack of confidence in that leadership. And by the way, it refers to them as a right-wing government. Right wing. Well, they're right wing, right wing, because, factions mean everything, right? So leaks, by the way, like this are intentional. Leaks like this are absolutely intentional. You got another one right here from Fox. Biden disparages Netanyahu behind the scenes, calls him a blank and a pain in my blank. I got a family-friendly show. I can't say it. But the reality is you got sources now talking from behind the scenes, even recordings about how they feel about Netanyahu, and at the same time having King Abdullah of Jordan come in, and by the way, let's do a press conference and let's talk about why Netanyahu needs to back off. And then you've got this on Newsmax 3 days ago. Netanyahu defends his response to the Hamas attack and says that victory is within reach. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defends his country's response in Gaza, one described by President Joe Biden as being, quote, over the top, saying it targets terrorists and they will give safe passage for the civilian population of Rafah. An interview aired Sunday. Netanyahu declared that victory is within reach, and he pushed back on Biden's criticism. He said, I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but put yourself in Israel's shoes, he said. We were attacked, unprovoked attack, a murderous attack on October 7th, the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And let me tell you, I think we've responded in a way that goes after the terrorists and tries to minimize civilian populations in which terrorists embed themselves and use them as human shields. So ask yourselves this. Why is the left turning on Israel? And I'm going to tell you right now, it's for all the wrong reasons. All right, y'all stay tuned. We're going to switch gears. Emily Jones, Moms for Liberty, calling in. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, listen, welcome to hour number 2, which is, I do this all the time, but like I get through a whole hour and I'm like, that went by fast. I mean, darn. Anyway, here we are on Friday Eve in hour number 2, and on the phones with us right now, Emily Jones, who is the president of Moms for Liberty's local chapter in the Madison area. Emily has been doing an amazing amount of work along with all of her cohorts in Moms for Liberty. If you're not familiar, Moms for Liberty is a national organization started in Florida by 2 moms who just got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they decided to start getting together and making a grassroots organization that is all of a sudden national. And our local friend, Emily Jones, has been doing that same type of work. Emily Jones, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. How are y'all?
We are good. We are good. But listen, I wanted to touch base with you, and then, in a minute, you talk about the event you got this weekend. By the way, I'm looking forward to being there with you. But the legislature is in session right now. Moms for Liberty, you're a grassroots organization. You're working on things in the local level, libraries, all of it. Give me an idea. What's the latest on your plate? What are you thinking and seeing?
I'm still trying to dig into everything. The big ones, obviously, for us, the school choice bill that came out from the governor. Still trying to wrap my brain around that one. We've all kind of had conversations around the confusion with it, because it talks about ESAs, but it talks about tax credits. There's nothing in there about pulling tax dollars from public schools. So it's very confusing to me. So we're digging into that one. And then the other one that I kind of love is Mac Butler's bill. He did one for basically banning gender ideology and sexual orientation from classrooms. So very needed bill, and I've asked him if he would take it a step further and also add in prohibiting flags or posters or banners of any kind in the schools too, because that's where we're seeing a lot of divisiveness coming in. So
yeah, let me ask
you
about
are the
that.
big ones we're tracking.
I think Mac's bill doesn't Representative Susan DuBose also have like the "What is a Woman" bill that labels what a woman is under Alabama law?
Yes, she does. Did she file it yet? I think I saw that she was getting ready to, but I don't know if she ever did.
Well, it's interesting that, first of all, doesn't it blow your mind we have to have a bill to say that? But
it's insane.
It is insane. But this is what, and I hate to say that every once in a while you have to be reactionary. Politics is downstream of culture. So when culture says, well, we don't know what a woman is, well, then politics has to get involved and say, yes, you do. But But that's kind of where we are. On the speaking of which, that really goes into the whole issue of transgender in sports and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't ready to jump over to it yet, but it's a great segue. I'll just go ahead and grab it now. You guys have an event this weekend with Riley Gaines, who has been really creating a crusade, if you will, to preserve women's sports from this transgender ideology. That's this weekend, right?
Yep, it is Saturday at 5:30.
So the event, as it's laid on right now, from what I understand, and we're going to be there. I'm looking forward to it. Charlene and I are both going to be there, along with other folks from Rightside. But you got a pretty good crowd growing right now. Didn't you have to get more space recently?
Yeah, we had to kind of expand the space we're in. 'Cause we've got about 170-ish people that are planning to be there. That's kind of ebbing and flowing as the days progress. But yeah, it should be a pretty packed house, and that's attendees. That doesn't include the volunteers and Riley and any of that. So it should be a pretty big crowd. We'll see. It's probably going to be a little congested. So if you're coming, be prepared to be up close next to the person beside you. But it'll be good. It'll be a good conversation.
Well, and you guys, are y'all sold out, or can people still get tickets if they want to?
So we've got a little bit of wiggle room. We've had a couple of people just email us direct saying, they had tickets, but they can't make it, and told us if we can find somebody to fill their ticket that they'll gladly pass them over. So we've got about 6 or 7 spots that if somebody didn't get a ticket and they wanted to, we can move tickets over to you. So if you're in the area and want to come, you can get a free ticket.
All right.
It'll be fun.
Who do they need to contact? Go on your Facebook page and leave a message, or what do you need? A DM there, or what?
Facebook's probably the fastest way. Yeah.
Okay. So with
I'll
Moms for
keep an
Liberty.
eye on it. Make sure something pops up.
All right. So the word is now out. If you want to be at the Riley Gaines event Saturday for Moms for Liberty, it's a fundraiser. It's also a rallying cry. All right, back to the legislature. I didn't mean to jump over to that as quick as I did, but there it was. Legislative action. You've got other cares and concerns. You got the school choice bill, gambling. I don't know if you heard or not. Gambling just blew through the House this morning because nothing was more important than making sure that Alabama has 10 casinos. That was big doings.
Yeah, I have not talked to any legislators directly on it. People on our team have, and obviously they've relayed those messages back. But it's fascinating to me that the message is very consistent. They just want this to be up to the voters to decide. Like at least 3 legislators have told us that. They don't want to make a decision in Montgomery, put it on the ballot, and let the voters decide. And I can't quite figure that out other than they just don't want to make a decision because they don't want to make somebody mad on one side or the other. But it's just insane. Like you're elected to represent your constituents. Obviously, you were voted in as a Republican, a conservative, so vote conservatively. Quit passing the buck and putting it back on the people. That's your entire purpose in being in office.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that, by the way, because that's one of my greatest frustrations because literally one other legislator who's a dear friend of mine, somebody you know personally, I was talking with last night, and I said, man, I just really appreciate you if you would vote no on that bill. And his response was, well, I committed to go ahead and allow the people a chance to vote on it. And I said, dude, they voted for you already. They voted for you to go down there and vote your conscience, and if your conscience either gets overridden by others or joins in with others and brings a constitutional amendment to the ballot, okay. But don't let it be like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to vote yes, even though I don't believe in it, and, let people vote because I don't have a spine to stand up for myself. That's the way it feels.
Yep. Yeah, it frustrates me as a grassroots person because now it's one more battle we have to pick up and fight. Because the average person does not pay attention to this. They don't know the details. They just go, oh, well, Georgia has the lottery, and that's really cool. We should have it, too. So now we have to go back out and educate all these people on, well, here's the downfalls of it. It brings in crime. It does this. It does that. So we now have to figure out how to go out and educate people so they can make informed decisions because our legislators didn't have the spine to do it to begin with.
Well, all the more
Thank
reason.
you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really. All the more reason for groups like yours who are actually looking at who's running for office. You guys are doing that on school board stuff right now, right?
We are. We're actually doing it across the board, just not in an official capacity. So Lee from Huntsville, she and I are working basically scorecards on every single person. So great, you don't want to vote yes or no on the gambling bill. You want to force it back on constituents. It is noted. Like we are taking note of every single thing. So when their elections come up, we will be advocating for a challenger.
Well, yes. And, it's by the way, that's one of the things that people used to say, like the teachers union always say, we're going to make sure you don't get reelected. They never had the clout to do that. But I don't think people recognize what can really happen when conservatives start banding together and getting irritated. I mean, look at 2010 when the Tea Party movement came alive and nationwide there was an overnight change in politics. And that can happen again.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about this.
I feel like we're getting closer and closer.
I agree, and I think we need to. I think we need more Moms for Liberty chapters, Tea Party movements. We need some Republicans getting in office that are like Freedom Caucus types, and then on top of that, we need people to be challenged in the primaries. But they're gonna have the power of the incumbency, and it's still possible. I know for a fact because I've beaten an incumbent. You can do it, but it's a uphill climb, yes. But we got to do it. We got to have more people like that.
Yeah, we do. And it's really difficult getting people to even entertain the idea of running for office. But I think, the way the country's leaning right now, especially with mass illegal immigration, like people that have never cared about what's going on in classrooms have said to me, I am sick and tired of all the illegal immigration and what it's doing to our classrooms. I mean, people near and dear to my heart are telling me I'm retiring because I am sick and tired of being in the education system that's allowing this.
Yeah. Well, it's a mess. All the more reason to have groups like yours. Hey, by the way, last time we talked, I think you had a brand new chapter forming down in Fairhope? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Baldwin County.
Do you have any others that are brewing right now as we speak?
I have got to connect with Amy. She has somebody she thinks in the Etowah area that might be interested. So,
Okay.
the person wasn't at the executive committee when I was down there, so we got to circle back and try to get that going. And then I think we've got some people in Prattville that are interested. So we've at least got names and areas, so it's a start.
Well, I love that. And you're talking about Amy from Rainbow City, my friend, and she's also a Rightside ruffian. So, yeah, I'm for that. Okay. Well, listen, Emily Jones, Moms for Liberty, you guys are going to have an amazing weekend this weekend. If you want to recant it right now, tell us again how folks can find out more about it or find out where to find out about you.
Just go to, if you're on Facebook, go to Moms for Liberty Alabama. All the information's out there. If you're not a Facebook person, just Google Moms for Liberty or go to momsforliberty.org, and you can scroll down until you find our chapter, and then our email address is on there. So just shoot me an email, and we'll either get you a ticket for this Saturday or we'll figure out a way to plug you in beyond Saturday's event.
Or if you want to start a local chapter, we can do that too.
Yep, we can do that too.
All right, Emily Jones, thanks for all you do, and I will see you Saturday.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah, we got to have more people like that. We got to have more people like that. All right, Big Rig, take it to the break, brother. We'll take a break right now. We'll come back and get some text messages and check in on a few things. And, oh, by the way, don't forget, coming up bottom of the hour in about 10 minutes, Butters and Lee. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. So going to a few text messages here to get caught up. John from Huntsville earlier, he said, if Biden is as sharp as ever, that just means he's the same sharpness as a plastic cafeteria knife.
And those things aren't very sharp.
Those aren't there. They're not very at all. No, you could like press down on your skin and not even leave a mark. It's just not good. What else we got? Jeremy from Huntsville said some rebels hate Israel because Trump did so much for Israel. They love anything anti-Trump. It's a great point. I don't know if you saw this or not, but the new is it Argentina? I just lost my train of thought. I think it's the new president of Argentina that is super conservative. He just flew over there and announced that he is actually moving his embassy over to Jerusalem, just like the United States did under Trump. Woo, yeah. Mike from Muscle Shoals texted in and says, is there a Dads for Liberty? Yes, it's called Husbands of Moms for Liberty. That's what it's called. But by the way, Moms for Liberty may be a moms-based organization, but there's guys involved. I know there are. So, yeah, jump on in where you can, Mike, and hang on. Trey from Madison says, with regards to the lottery vote, because the lottery vote equals massive Democrat voter turnout. That's what they're hoping for. What they wanted, and the reason there was talk about how, well, they took a year off last year. No, they didn't. They planned it this way. What they wanted was to be on the ballot that has the most momentum, which is the big turnout ballot of this year, the presidential election cycle. They didn't want to be down the road somewhere or on another one later or on one, before a midterm election. They wanted to be on this one. So they didn't want to also have a year of time for the opposition to mount, some momentum in its opposing views. So they staged it, and they got what they wanted out of the House today. The question now is, what are they going to do about the Senate? And folks, I'm just telling you, if you know your state senator, here's the thing. If you go to casinos yourself and you don't mind that kind of thing, I get it. But if you're conservatives, you should still hate the bill. Why am I saying that? You can ask for a gambling bill and not ask for the expansion of government, the increasing of taxes, the violation of civil liberties, the prohibitions against being allowed to sue the gambling commission when they commit crimes or commit tortious activities. They've got so much written in there that's like monopolies. We're free market people as conservatives. They've got stuff written in there that basically honors those who've been breaking our law for years. Why are we rewarding bad actors? That's what Democrats do. They've got stuff in there like labeling exactly who's allowed to have a casino. But, oh, by the way, there'll be 10 of them. 10 casinos in the state of Alabama. Really? We need that? I'm just looking at this going, this is the most god-awful piece of legislation. I thought that marijuana bill was bad. I thought the gas tax bill was bad. And by the way, we're looking at a Republican supermajority that is lying through its teeth, that has the audacity to tell you, well, all we're doing here is giving the people the right to vote. They did vote, you jackwagons. They voted you into office. And if you go down there and say, I'm for gambling, I want gambling, I do. I'm a legislator, they elected me, and I'm here to vote my conscience, I want gambling. Just say it. I respect that a whole lot more than you jackwagons who were saying, well, I got elected, but I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to let it go to a vote of the people so I can say that, I was being fair. Or for that matter, well, there's like criminal activity happening out there with these illegal casinos, and so I think we ought to legalize it just so we can get some tax money off of it. What a stupid argument. If you want to say you just want gambling, say it. If you want to say you just want the revenue off gambling, just say it. Stop pretending that this is about a vote of the people. This is called greed. This is called, we would like to balance the budgets of our state on the losing of our citizens. There you go. This is basically saying, I would much rather not do something hard to bring true economic development to our state. I'd just rather have a casino where people can take their paychecks and roll the dice. And then I get to keep the money they lose as a legislator. You watch. They're growing government, raising taxes, violating civil liberties, avoiding the rights to hold them accountable because they're going to keep themselves immune from suits. It's in the bill right now. I read it. Oh, by the way, they also threw in Medicaid expansion. Why? To get the Democrat vote. And because they were already soft on Medicaid expansion to begin with. The whole thing is just absolutely the most asinine piece of legislation I've ever seen, and they call themselves Republicans. You take that bill and you go to the state Republican Party headquarters website, the ALGOP website. Click on the website and go to the place where it has the platform issues of the state Republican Party. And then read through that bill and see how many of our Republican platform issues it violates. If you just want to have a clean lottery bill, bring a bill that says, hey, we're going to have a lottery. Bam. People vote on that in a heartbeat. If you want to say, we just want more casinos, then don't couple it with the lottery and pretend that it's about a vote of the people for a lottery. You're trying to reward the casino bosses. How many of y'all took campaign donations from the casino bosses? My God. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. Hey, all you right side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, Alabama. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. It goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi. All thrown in just for good measure. All right, well, it is Thursday. It's Thursday at 3:30. You know what that means. We got this thing we do. We call Butters and Lees. So let me call the roll, first of all, and see if we got them on the line. So our friend Lee from Huntsville, is you or is you not with us?
I am here.
You are. Hey, Lee, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, let me check on the Butter Man. Butters, our Butters buddy, how are you?
I'm good, Phil. How are you today?
I'm good, man. You sound good on that connection. You sound smooth. Well, all right. I think it's time for me to declare a session of Butters and Lee. All right, the whoop whoops have sounded. We're in. So here's my first question for you. And maybe there's something that. We got the sound effect playing. Maybe there's something that Butters recognizes from his times in the military, but we used to have in the Army especially something we called a commander's wake-up criteria. Like, downrange, something happens in the middle of the night, small fry stuff, the battle captain takes care of it, but there were certain things that you went and woke up the boss for. You didn't wait till the morning. He did not need to wake up in the morning and find out that happened at 3 a.m. So if the phone rings at 3 a.m. in the White House right now, what's the threshold for waking up Joe Biden? What do you say, Lee?
I mean, my non-serious answer is nothing. But my serious answer is I would hope any president, you would have to wake up for any type of attack on another country, especially an ally, and or terrorist attack in the United States, anything really major. But here's the thing, when you have a president who has, and I don't think anybody's debating this anymore, he has obvious dementia symptoms. They don't do well at night.
Yeah.
And I think that we saw this the other night at the press conference. And I will tell you, I think they did that to him on purpose. They know he's not good at night. That's why they put a lid on so early every single night and have no press conferences. And so they put him out there because they knew that they also put out that report. They knew what was in it. They could see that it basically called him a senile old man, for lack of better words. And so they know that nighttime is not a good time for him. Then they let him do a press conference at night, and he became agitated and angry, which is common with dementia, called sundowners. They get picked after, sun goes down. I think that.
Go ahead.
Not much.
There's not much to wake him up for because okay. I asked this question. It was a loaded question, and I knew it was. But let me go to Butters before I say much more, though. All right, Butters. Commander's wake up criteria. White House, 3 a.m. What is it?
Do we have a fresh batch of pudding? Yeah, I think it doesn't seem like they care too much. My guess, kind of to Lee's point, I don't think they wake him up for anything because they're probably more just, we got less to deal with if he's asleep. So it's probably more the staff and what are the key points. I mean, they lost the SecDef for 5 days. I mean, I don't know. And I mean that with all genuine, and yes, I have a ton of experience with dealing with this at 3-star and 4-star admiral and general levels. I know what they get woken up for.
Yeah.
And I don't see that they seem to care.
Yeah. And that's like I said, loaded question. And I knew it when I thought through what I wanted to ask y'all today. I thought, man, this will be a loaded question. It'll be both humorous and yet not humorous at the same time. And I feel the exact same way. My sense is he's not the go-to guy at 3 a.m., despite the fact that he's commander in chief. I think that the so-called battle captains, if you will, they are literally running the shop. And, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan or somebody like that is coming in and handling things, and they'll just tell the president how it went. Unless it gets so bad they have to trot him out in front of the press. That's the way I feel things are probably going right now. Just saying.
Yeah, I would feel that there's a lot of the same, particularly in the staff side of things. The folks that I dealt with when we went into Syria, and being involved with that myself, there was a lot of confusion at our level, and I would imagine that's exactly what is going on. So,
all right, phone's ringing at 3 a.m. in the White House, and we assume the operator is going to take the call, but who knows? All right, next question. I'm going to switch gears on you. I'm still on a national scene. I mean, right now we're looking at this illegal mass migration, and I'm beyond just calling them, border crossers or, immigrants. They're not. It's illegal mass migration, in my opinion, but it's causing disruption in communities across the entire nation, and like not a small amount. I know you guys know because you keep up, but this is like epic level stuff. I mean, systems are being strained, and communities are facing unrest, and crime is rising in certain areas. And so here's the deal. Trump has talked about if he gets reelected, it's going to be the biggest mass deportation in world history. Do you think that looking at the way things are, knowing who we are as a people, do you think that the American public actually wants the mass deportations or just find a way to assimilate them? What do you think? You first this time, Butters.
I think, say, 2 years ago, if you'd asked the question, I think most people would be, hey, let's just stop hemorrhaging and let's apply some common sense to stopping the border, and then we'll figure out what to do with the folks that are here. I think with, as we've talked a lot about, the numbers are staggering. So, yeah, I don't think it would be a tough sell to a lot of people in America at this point of, number one, let's stop it, and then let's get, we got to round some of these folks up. I think that's a much more palpable thing. Of course, obviously, there's going to be a ton of folks on the left that would seem to fight. I don't know how hard they'll fight, but I think right now, I certainly would definitely be in favor of some coherent. I mean, we got 1.5 million folks coming in a year, 300,000+ a month. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it really is. All right,
3 million a year.
Yeah, it's 3 million a year, I think, and I think it's also been over 6 million since Biden took office. But
sorry, I was off 1 million people.
What's 1 million among friends? You know what I'm saying? I mean, hey, I got 1 million, you got 1 million. You know what I'm saying? I know a guy. Anyway, Lee, so your thoughts? Do you think that the American public is like, yes, we're ready for mass deportation, send them back to where they came from, or are you thinking that there's just a stop the bleeding and we can assimilate those that are here? What do you think?
I think most people would want mass deportation at this point. Even Democrats, I think a lot of them are seeing how it affects their cities and their services that are being offered. And I think that they are now saying we need to be able to take care of the people we have here. We can't, having homeless in the streets and migrants in hotels just seems so wacky. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think yes, but I don't know if you saw it, but they did a nice little, I don't know who filmed it, what station it was, but they filmed this woman. She had accepted some migrants into her home.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about how wonderful it was. It was just delightful. And the lady was cooking, and I'm like, wow, the Dems found a way to bring back slavery. Look, you can stay at my home, but you need to clean and cook. How are you with the, shoveling snow? How about raking leaves? I mean, for God's sake.
Oh, she wasn't cooking for them. She had them cooking for her.
They were cooking for her. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
And I was like, ooh, that's not a good look.
They got themselves a whole new indentured servitude going on.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, wow, the Democrats figured out how to bring it back. Look at them. They're so enterprising.
Wow. Just touch them on the head. They're sweet.
Do you get free money for housing immigrants?
Probably in some places, I bet you do. You know what? I bet you do.
Could you share a link on how much I can get paid to do that?
It
I'm looking for a little side income.
Probably a lot like foster kids, they're like foster people. You just take them in, they'll cook and clean for you. You can get them out in the yard and be like, get out there and rake, some leaves and cook me meals, and then I can get some money.
Oh my gosh,
it's all
awful.
Disgusting.
They just pay 10 times what actually being a foster parent pays. That seems to be the sanity of the world we're living in.
I saw the story about the woman taking them. She said that she had said, well, my husband and I would be willing to take some people in, and they had a family of 4 show up on their doorstep within an hour. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I did not see the follow-up.
There was another lady that had a couple in there, but I'm like, hey, chick, why don't you take in a few of these single men, see how it works out for you? I mean, what can happen, right?
Ooh, yeah.
What can happen?
The guys with the face tattoos, they're not mean.
Right. Yeah. 3 or 4 of them. I mean, it's safe.
Well, to my question, too, I'll just go ahead and tell you, I really do believe there's going to be a fair mix of this. I think there's a real desire to see a bunch of these folks shipped back. And here's the thing. And maybe we can deal with this here for a minute, too, if you don't mind, before we go to the break, is how do you do this? Because what you know is going to wind up happening is they're going to be showing pictures of the mass incarcerations of Japanese-American citizens during World War II right next to the picture of, the Trump administration herding people into cages and then shipping them, to all 4 corners of the world. I mean, how do we do this? Do you take volunteers first? What do you do with this? Okay, I'm going to call names then. Lee, you first.
Okay, yeah. It doesn't matter how he does it. It doesn't matter. They're still going to say these things. So if I were him, I would just make it happen, and I would start pulling them from the areas that are most disrupted, and even the blue areas, so they can see, hey, someone's actually listening to you, and it's not the Democrats, and just start sending them back. Period. And I know it would take a long time, but I would just start. I mean, we're going to need to see more ICE raids. They need to be shipped down to Mexico. Since Mexico's letting them all in, they can take them all back. The key is getting Mexico to stop letting them in. That's the key to their country, not to get to our country. And so what we're going to say is, hey, you let them all in here. They're all coming back.
Butters,
or if it's like far countries, we're going to fly them out.
Butters, 30 to 45 seconds here. What do you think? How do we stage this? How do we make this work?
Well, you take a good chunk of all those extra IRS agents that they've hired, and you turn them loose. I like what Lee's saying. Figuring out what communities are in dire need, and probably focusing on it geographically. And moving it out, and then obviously we got it's not all Hispanic. I mean, there's Chinese, all sorts of. I mean, so part of it would be very, very important. Find the fighting age male, if you will, for lack of better words. The ones that this might be more than just somebody looking for an opportunity in the country.
More to come on this one, but I think we're going to see something. And what?
A draconian tax on any type of money transfers, and make them self-deport. Like 50% tax on money transfers, self-report them, deport them back. They'll go back if they can't make money.
I said that yesterday on the show. That's been my idea for several years. Is you put some kind of a tax or a tariff on the amount of money being transferred by Western Union and others back to these the countries they came from, and I guarantee you. Either A, they'll start mailing cash through the mail, or B, they'll go home. All right, guys, we got to take a break right now. We're with Butters and Lee. It's our Thursday segment. 2 folks who are just like great at having opinions themselves, and I love hearing it. We come right back. This is where they ask me questions. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Just, making common sense like a superpower. Hey, we're going right back to our segment we love called Butters and Lee. And this is where we flip the script. And instead of me asking them questions, they ask me questions. And I'm going to go with Lee first. Lee, you got a question for me?
Yeah, I was wondering if you saw where Limestone County busted sex offenders using now I can't remember the name of his group. Jared, the Navy SEAL.
Covenant Rescue Group.
Yes, Covenant Rescue Group. How they busted people in Limestone County.
Yeah.
And just wanted to point out, Pete, that this is also another unintended consequence of illegal immigration as well, an increase in this type of behavior. And, I'm just glad to see they're doing these things. Wondering if you saw it.
I did see the headline. I got a chance to look at the story just for a minute. I've had Jared Hudson on my show multiple times. The dude's solid. Former Navy SEAL, ran for sheriff as a Republican in Jefferson County, the biggest county in the state, and really did a pretty bang up job. Almost took the race. And his Covenant Rescue Group has been doing amazing work, consulting with and assisting local law enforcement with these human trafficking rescue operations and stings, and just very cool. Yeah. They could make a movie about what he's doing, and they should. But anyway, so yeah, did I see it? Yes, I did, and yes, I think that we need to have more of it. I love what he's doing. I love that he's right here in Alabama. I love that he's a right side ruffian that has one of our shirts. I'm loving more than anything though that they are literally rescuing kids and stopping predators. Yeah. It's very cool. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Moms for Liberty, y'all are doing something with Jared sometime soon, aren't you?
April 5th. On Friday, April 5th, we're going to have a dinner celebrating their group, and just talking. It's going to be all about their group. It's not anything about us. And it's going to be, he's going to come up and, just talk about what his organization is doing and how people can get involved. It's going to be great.
Outstanding. Well, glad for it.
Can I ask a question real quick
go ahead.
that?
Yeah.
What is the state doing to help with any of that, or what are officials doing to help with that?
Well, so my understanding is the AG's office has been very cooperative, and there is human trafficking legislation designed right now to enhance the capabilities of the state and local to assist with this. And then there's also the Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force, which is a coalition of organizations that I actually used to go to their meetings when I was with API. The Human Trafficking Task Force is there to basically provide additional information, support, and effort to lobby for more as needed. So yeah, there are things happening, but I think at the same time, Jared Hudson and his group, they bring a certain level of gravitas and expertise on it, and I'm glad they're doing what they're doing. All right, Butters, what question do you have for moi?
So I guess Alabama is being compared to Nazi Germany and apartheid South Africa. So Senator Singleton, I saw this article in 1819 dealing with the library, I guess particularly the Archives and Histories Board of Trustees legislation they're talking about and debating.
Yeah.
This rhetoric, what do you? How does this help the conversation? And does he genuinely? I mean, when he says stuff like that, do you think he genuinely believes that comparison?
No, but I'll be honest with you. I can't tell you how many times, and we got about a minute left, but I can't tell you how many times I was basically sort of held captive by Bobby Singleton or Roger Smitherman, two senators, members of the Black Caucus in the state Senate, who would go to the podium and say the most, race baiting type things and accusing anybody else in the legislature didn't agree of some level of racism, or talking about how we're trying to keep people down, and it's a tactic, an unfortunate tactic, and it also is clear indication when you don't have the facts on your side, just argue racism. That's what they got. Saw it time and time again.
attention getting. That's what it is. They're trying to get attention outside the state for their causes because people here aren't buying that nonsense.
Yeah, it creates a great clickbait title, sort of like the one that lured Butters in. All right, you guys. Love you both. Butters and Lee. We'll have you back on again next week. You guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
All right, folks. We are taking a break. We're coming right back, and it's time for a little discussion about kakistocracy. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on Friday Eve. We like to call it Friday Eve instead of Thursday. It feels better that way. But let me go to the phones right now because a good brother just called in, former state representative Ken Johnson, who represented quite ably from District 7, which is up here in North Alabama, is on the line right now. Ken Johnson, how are you doing?
Oh, Senator, I am fine. I am better than I deserve.
Well, there's that. I got a friend of mine who likes to say, I'm just too blessed to whine, and that works for me, too. What's on your mind, brother? You keeping track of what's going on down yonder in Montgomery?
I am. I'm a little disappointed. Not just a little. I'm disappointed today in seeing the vote that came out concerning the lottery, the gambling, the whole package. It's disappointing.
Yeah, it is. In fact, I've got a segment, and I'm not sure I'm going to get to it today, but I'm certainly getting to it tomorrow. I've got a unique opportunity here, just like you're doing with me right now. You and I have both been there. We've been in these trenches. We know what it takes to actually stand up and say no to a bad bill or to ask for a bad bill to be amended and make it better. We know what it means to have leadership asking us to go down a certain road that we're not comfortable with. And what I'm concerned about is there's a whole lot of folks down there who said, well, I don't like this bill, but I gave my commitment that I'd vote for the opportunity for the people to have a chance to have a vote. And I just find that to be the most asinine, spineless answer I think I've ever heard. Just saying. There, I said it.
Yeah, and that's part of our responsibility when we're down there is recognizing there's such an this is an important issue to people. But we also don't want it to cost them the blood of their firstborn child in the exchange of the right to vote. And, there's going to be a high price paid if this thing goes to the polls and passes because of the details that most of the public is not aware of. They're not aware of that.
Yeah, we've been trying to wear that out on this show. We had Stephanie Smith on from API. We've had, several others, but you're right. I think the vast majority of people are hearing, and they want that. By the way, the people who want this bill to pass, all they want people to hear is you might get a chance to vote on a lottery. And that's all they want them to hear. They don't want to talk about the things that are embedded in that bill. If this was a bill about having Christmas trees, it would still be an awful bill because of the way it's structured right now.
Sure. And I'll tell you, there's some other things that concern me apart from the gambling issue. And the organization, the structure that's been put in place is the timing. And you probably have talked about this, but the timing, because when we see that we've got 2 marginal congressional seats, and if you go back, if people, people's memory sometimes is short, and you look to the days of when Siegelman, the last time we went to the polls, and what you see is it brought out a very heavy turnout of Democrats.
Yeah.
And so, you remember when we were having to pass a lot of important legislation, even though sometimes the Democrats agreed with it, they would not get on board with us. They made us want to pass it. And to have this divided Republican caucus, part of it partnering with the Democrats, my question also comes back, and Phil, you know what I'm saying. What did it cost us? What did we have to exchange to get them on board to make this pass?
Yeah, and
is that a good question?
It absolutely is, and there's several things in there. So first of all, what did we have to give away? I think they gave away part of their so-called Republican souls because leadership embedded Medicaid expansion in there, and we know for a fact it was to get Democrat votes because Anthony Daniels pretty much said he wouldn't support this bill unless that was in there. And then you've got, everybody's got a little piece of the pie, a little something. And I'll tell you right now, Speaker Ledbetter, somebody needs to ask him, so I see the bill has written in that you're going to have a a casino in your district. Is that correct? Nobody's asked him that question yet, but that's actually part of what's in the bill right now. And you just look at this and go, God, y'all, this is awful. But I'll tell you what else I heard too, and you remember the days of the strong arming from a previous speaker. We're seeing right now, I'm hearing that people in the House right now were feeling absolute arm twisting, being threatened with their committee assignments, being told they wouldn't get a good office anymore, they wouldn't have support in the next election. And granted, I think every bit of that is grounds to bow up even harder, but some people bow down instead of bowing up, and I think that happened some too.
Yeah, and what we can only hope now, though, is that since this has passed, that our Senate and some of the ones I've talked to feel very strongly that support is not there. And I don't want to take away from the House, but you remember, y'all are the upper body. The more, as one lobbyist one time said, they're the more deliberative chamber.
Indeed,
Which I
indeed.
disagree with it.
Indeed. I used to come downstairs to the house, and it would just scare me, and I'd go back upstairs.
Yeah, of course, I disagreed with that at the time, but I'm hoping now they're a very deliberative group in the Senate.
Well, there was not a lot of deliberation in the House, and you mentioned a moment ago, timing is everything, and that's I forget how you said it, but the timing is absolutely a revelation here. People should look at this and go, oh, apparently there was nothing more important for the State House of Representatives than getting a gambling bill out. That was the most important and pressing thing. It was more important than school choice. It was more important than gender ideology. It was more important than fiscal accountability. It was more important than tax relief. It was more important than anything they say they stand for. The most important thing they could do was get that gambling bill to the floor of the House, and they did it in record time, brother.
That was fast and hard, and that's what happened with this. But I'm really, we don't know really maybe how this could have implications on a national level, because when you look at like where Dick Brubaker, that congressional seat, it's purple. It's not defined as being blue really. But when you bring out that heavy Democrat vote into this possible November election, it literally could have a major impact on our congressional seats in Alabama, as well as in the nation. If you look, we don't have a very large margin right now.
Yeah, no, we don't, and it's unbelievable what we're seeing. And I do pray that the Senate, and I've been reaching out to a number of them. There's only 35 members of the Senate. We can go ahead and write off the very few Democrats because they're going to vote for it. And then there's a few that I think are what I don't want to call them per se weak sisters. I mean, if you want, by the way, I'll say this, Ken, I'll backtrack 1 second. If a legislator just wants to literally look people in the eye and say, I support gambling, I'm voting yes, then just do it. I would have much greater respect for a person who says that than all the straw man arguments they're using right now to try and justify what they're doing. But in the Senate, I think there are a few right now who want gambling to expand. But then there are others right now who I know for a fact are on the fence, which I can't understand, to include leadership. I really want them to, I want the Senate to have a chance to go, that bill is so awful for a variety of reasons, and we're not going to go down that road. I just wish they would.
Absolutely. And I know there have been other bills over the years that have been introduced, but that actually I think were probably better bills than this one. From what I know about it, from what I can see and read, there have probably been better bills introduced in years that didn't even get near the consideration that this has now had. And when I look around us, and I don't mean to be critical of other states, but when you look and you drive, I drove through Mississippi from one side to the other just a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, as I was passing some of the casinos, and I thought, I expected golden arches on each border as I crossed it, because Mississippi's had gambling for 20 years. What has it done for their schools? What has it done for their roads? What has it done for their economy?
Yeah.
And what we can expect is the same. And what's kind of another thing, Phil, that I haven't mentioned that concerns me is when we think about, we're a sales tax state. our school systems utilize the sales tax, our communities, our counties. Every time we pull the dollar out of this, our economy, it's gone, and it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Whether, especially in the super lottery, percentage-wise, it's very unlikely that it's going to be won by somebody in Alabama and stay here. It's gone, and it ceases to turn over. I just don't understand the economics of the decisions.
Well, and it's not only that, it's also the social economics. I mean, take a look at the fact that what they just said is we can't wait for the opportunity to make money off of our people losing. And that's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make the money off the people winning. You make the money off the people losing. And what they basically said is that we need to have at least 10 casinos that will give us a chance to scrape in some winnings off of people losing. That's what they want. The whole thing ticks me off, brother.
Oh, it does, and it's the poorest of those. It won't be my dollars, and many of us who are conservative and are thinking rationally, it won't be our dollars going there. It'll be the people who are many times feel themselves in desperation. I may have told you this story back in the years gone by when Walker County had the quote bingo parlors, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Before Governor Riley, started enforcing the law. And I had a lady that was helping with my son. She received a call, and it was a friend of hers from Decatur heading to Walker County. And she said this, my rent and my utilities are due. I've got $10, and I'm going to Walker County to try and pay my bills. And I asked her the next day, I said, well, how did that turn out for her? Have you heard? She said, oh, yeah, she lost.
Oh, wow.
And that's the desperation that I think we know is coming. And there's a social cost to be paid. You're absolutely right.
Well, brother, I'm going to leave it on that note because we got to go to a break right now. But I appreciate you, man. This is a great surprise. What a wonderful thing to have you call in. Just call in anytime you feel like it, brother. I appreciate you, your service to our state, and who you are as a person.
Well, likewise, my friend, my brother. Thank you for what you do, and you keep up the good work. Keep folks on the right side.
All right. Former state representative Ken Johnson. What a great treat. All right, we're going to a break right now. Let's do that, Big Rig. We'll take that break. We'll come right back, and then I will jump into some cacistocracy. And I got a whole slew of text messages I haven't gotten to. This show's getting away from me, man. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, wow, what a full day. I mean, I technically have only gotten one dipper done, Big Rig. I don't know how to explain this, but it's just been like so full.
Past few days have been like that.
It has, man. I mean, it's a target-rich environment right now for a conservative talk show.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot to talk about in the past few days.
Just like nonstop. I'm getting speed wrinkles on my face from the wind blowing. It's just like, wow. Let me grab a few text messages. I see a brand spanking new one. We need to plug him in, brother, when you get a chance. Keith from Chattanooga is texting in. Appreciate you being in the text line. And I think he actually responded he texted yesterday, and I didn't see it, but he says, he's talking about that Peter Schweitzer book. I did recall him saying that yesterday. And he says, I heard you read my text at the end of the show. Cool, thanks. Said, I heard that Sean Hannity interviewed Peter Schweitzer. See, I remember the interview. That's what made me think of the book there, Keith. But he said, that's how I can confirm what the other texter said. He said, I'm a truck driver delivering in northern Alabama. Good show. Hey, thanks, Keith. Appreciate you, man. Stay in the audience. We love having right side ruffians who go over the road. JD with no location. Actually, JD from Hartselle. You can change him, by the way. You can add Hartselle to his moniker. He says, Alabama residents are already losing the money. When I worked for a casino in Tunica, 40% of the players' cards were held by Alabama addresses. Doesn't make it any better, brother. It doesn't make it any better at all. By the way, how hard was it for them to go to Tunica? Not hard. We need one in our own backyard. No, not really. Kelly from Athens likes my speed wrinkles. It's like flying in a Black Hawk with the doors open, man. Just nap of the earth, wind a blowing. Jenny from Decatur says, how do you spell kakistocracy? It is, you ready for this? Kakistocracy. Kakistocracy. It's a real word. It means a nation, or a government run by the least competent of its citizens. Let me give you an example. When I say I've got examples of kakistocracy from around the nation, how about this one, Dateline 2 days ago on Breitbart? Boston Democrat City Council member Julia Magia wants suburbanites to house illegals in their homes. Yeah. Why? Because they got more stuff out there. Okay. Says Boston City Council member Julia Magia told WBTS Boston on Thursday that suburban restaurant residents need to step up. God almighty. And begin offering their homes as migrant shelters. How about this? No. The at-large city councilor suggested that the suburbs have more resources available. Okay, than the city of Boston? And she named places like Dedham and Wellesley and Brookline. Cities and towns that have so much more resources than the city of Boston. People who actually have more financial support. We need to do everything in our power to make sure we're setting them up for success, or whatever success looks like. So let me get this straight. People come here illegally. They flood our systems with needs. And you're telling us that we need to set them up for success. And part of that success is to give away the security and the sanctity of our homes. Now listen, I'm a firm believer in the scriptural reference to take care of the poor and the widows, right? And I am absolutely of the belief that our nation, by the way, gives away more than any other nation in the history of the world. Between foreign aid and internal aid and charitable contributions. And oh, by the way, thank you very much. But if you look at the stats, and I did a study on this one time on the show, conservatives give more to charity than liberals do any day of the week. That being said, she says, I think everybody should be opening up their doors because this is a shared responsibility. Here's my question. How many is she boarding in her house? You notice she didn't say, I'm doing it, you should too. Okay. See, folks, this is an absolute example of kakistocracy. It's a government official who was obviously one of the least competent members of her society that is now in a position of elected authority telling other people, you need to step up, start giving us your house. We want some of these illegals living with you. We need to board them. And then that was hilarious too, by the way, when Lee from Huntsville's on a little while ago. And she said, she saw, and I saw the same story, but I didn't catch the part she was talking about, that this husband and wife said, well, we'll do that. And they made it known that they would be willing when the time came. Within less than an hour later, she said, a family of four showed up on her doorstep. like less than an hour. Here we are. You said you'd take us. And yeah, and now guess what? They're cooking and cleaning her house. Does that feel a little awkward? Like maybe a little indentured servitude? Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We got more Cacostrocracy right after this. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Just like covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. I believe it, Alabama. Y'all, this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, even Mississippi all thrown in, just for good measure. And by the way, I tell you who else covers a whole lot of ground. That's our friends at Southern Immediate Care. So Southern Immediate Care, if you're not familiar, you should be by now, because they are a chain of clinics that's covering a huge swath of ground across our overly broad listening area. So Southern Immediate Care, open 7 days a week at all their locations in places like Gadsden, Anniston, Atala, 6 more locations around the Birmingham area with that brand new one they've got in Helena. Listen, they are just amazing at what they do. And oh, by the way, this is who I use personally. And I always say this as a disclaimer. I do not use them because they advertise. I asked them to advertise because I was already using them, and it was so easy to brag on them. I went to them and said, I could brag on y'all. Would y'all want to advertise on Rightside? They're like, yeah. Well, it's kind of easy because I find out they're owned by a Rightside ruffian. That's cool. But anyway, Southern Immediate Care, open 7 days a week. They'll see all ages at all locations. Pediatric up to geriatric is what I always say. And they will indeed take care of you. I believe in them. So yeah, go on down there when you need something. And when you're filling out those forms and getting ready to see the doc, tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I'd appreciate that. Hey, I'm in this section right now called Kakistocracy. Kakistocracy, a real word, K-A-K-I-S-T-O-C-R-A-C-Y, Kakistocracy. It's a word that means a government run by the least competent of its citizens. I don't know how in the world the mayor of Chicago has walking around since. I don't know how he sleeps at night with some of the things that the man utters. Like you look at him and go, I mean, he'll say things and I just stare at the screen and go, what? Like, what? What? So here's the latest. Chicago mayor, story broke out 2 days ago. Chicago mayor boasts funding minority businesses to feed illegal aliens. The layers of kakistocracy in this one story. So Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson recently boasted about the millions of dollars that he's been giving to minority-owned businesses to help feed illegal aliens, asserting that it really captures the soul of Chicago. Because there ain't no white people in Chicago, apparently. And they don't count. And they couldn't ever help anybody. So literally $17.6 million. $17.6 million of Chicago tax dollars given out in grants to what they call BIPOC restaurants. BIPOC. That stands for, what is that? Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. BIPOC restaurants. So working, it's in quotations here. Working in close coordination with the city of Chicago, the Food Depository convened a network of BIPOC restaurants and caterers to provide daily hot meals at an expanding number of shelters. And it gives no explanation at all for why white businesses were excluded. Well, I guess because white people, that privilege gets in the way of being able to help somebody. I guess. Maybe. Kakistocracy. Well, anyway, the bottom line is this. You've got an administration run by a former teachers union advocate, which is what he was. He was an activist for the teachers union, who's now the mayor of one of the biggest cities in the United States, who is making sure that $17 million gets given out, but only to BIPOC restaurants. And then, oh, by the way, that $17 million is only going to be used to feed illegal aliens. Where does this stop? When do the people of Chicago, who, by the way, are people of all color and creeds and demographics, that's their tax dollars, when is someone going to go, yeah, this is a really bad idea, and we want the kakistocracy to stop? Hey, I got a call real quick. Let me grab it. Jeff Rowe from Indiana is on the line. Jeff, what you up to, man?
I just got back into Tennessee.
Oh, wow, you're moving fast today.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good for a change.
What's on your mind, man? You see kakistocracy everywhere you look?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of Democrats out in the world, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Hey, got you an ideal for a new shirt, Phil, and this will go like hotcakes.
Okay, what you got?
You need to. Your next shirt should say, "I'm a right side ruffian, killer or cackrostocracy killer, and then on the back have the definition of cackrostocracy. Them things you probably couldn't print enough of them. You'd have so many prints to go.
You know, I really have thought about just having a T-shirt that on the back of it, like the front is just the Right Side logo, but on the back it actually has, you know, it looks like a dictionary definition with the breakdown of the word and what it is and the definition, and then I think that would go over quick.
Oh yeah, that's what I say. Just but on the front you need to put, "I'm a right side ruffian killer of cackrostocracies," because we are. I'm hoping there's no dumb right side ruffians out there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the right side, would they?
I'm afraid that somebody might construe that as I was like somebody would quickly accuse me of making a silent dog whistle for KKK, killer of cackrostocracies.
Do you really care?
No.
It's not your fault. People are ignorant.
They'll find a way to declare racism when they want to, no matter what we do, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But it's just crazy. Yeah, it's a Biden thing. I sent you a text a while ago, though. I wish you could have read that before they asked you where to find cackrostocracy.
I was just about to mention that.
Oh yeah, Big Rig said you sent me a text. What? Hang on, let me say what you said. Which one? There's 3 texts in a row.
It's the last one he said.
He says many people have trouble finding the word cackrostocracy. They keep looking under C and K, but it's actually under the letter B because Biden is the definition of cackrostocracy. Nice. How do you spell cackrostocracy? With a B. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's
actually you do.
What's his middle name? Robinette, Joseph Robinette Biden. So we can call him Joseph Robinette Cackrostocracy Biden. Just saying. All right. Well, listen. You be safe on the road, brother. Take care out there.
All right, Phil. You have a good one.
All right. We'll see you. Let me get another story or line or two out of these before I go. Here's one right here, by the way, that is up on Fox News as we speak. So in the state of North Carolina, and by the way, when I picture North Carolina, I mean, I like to think of North Carolina as being sort of like a more conservative, sort of southern state. Anyway, North Carolina Police Academy proposes curriculum that includes the teaching of 68 different terms for gender identity. Excuse me? So you want to saddle our law enforcement with the notion that they should have the ability to fill out the traffic ticket using, it's going to take a whole extra page for the ticket. Excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. Can you point to the one that best describes your gender identity today? It says the 16-week basic law enforcement training offered to people over the age of 20 in North Carolina is likely to see significant changes in 2025 at the behest of the state's Department of Justice, the Carolina Journal report. They're asking for them to rewrite course sections, and they want to include an increase in the ability to provide gender identity, gender-neutral terminology when police address individuals and members of the public, under the section topic called Communication Skills for Law Enforcement Officers. That is absolutely going to be cackrostocracy. I got a caller. Where's John from, by the way? Do we know? Don't know. Okay, I'll ask him when I get on the line. I'm going to take one call for the break. Somebody named John. John, who are you? Where are you from?
I'm from Athens, Alabama.
Hey, John, from Athens, Alabama. What's on your mind?
Quick question.
Yeah.
So the legislators that are pushing the gambling bills that are going to put a vote out for the public that say the people ought to just have a chance to vote on whether or not they want gambling. If they're serious, why didn't they do 3 bills and 3 constitutional amendments, one on a lottery, one on casinos, and one on internet gambling, and let the people vote on each one of them instead of this comprehensive mess? The reason is they know the only way they could possibly get casino gambling is if they cloak it in the lottery.
That's exactly right. They're going to cloak it in the lottery, and oh, by the way, they're also going to do what they can to pretend that it's for the children. And it's all for the goodness. We need it for the goodness of the state. Man, John
Bill,
from Athens, you're spot on.
Have you seen the penalties for them allowing minors to be able to buy lottery tickets?
It's a misdemeanor. It's like a slap on the wrist, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I mean, it's you look at it and go, tell me you're protecting the kids, but you're making it a misdemeanor to sell an underage kid lottery tickets and allow them to gamble.
And oh, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, the Alabama Policy Institute has got some studies that clearly indicate that the most at-risk population for gambling addiction with these online sports bettings that could be on your cell phone are youth, and because they're so impressionable. They just see it as a little lark, and they get dad's credit card and they start gambling. Next thing you know, they got a real problem. Yeah, you're right, man. They didn't want to do 3 separate bills. They could have if they wanted to, but they weren't going to do that because they need everything to be behind the lottery. And so all the billboards that are going to be pressuring people to vote, all the TV commercials, it's going to be about make that choice. Here's your lottery, and people are going to be realizing later on they voted for 10 casinos.
Yep. Have a great day, Phil.
You too, John. See you. All right, listen, we are going to take a break right now. I got a stack of Kakistocracy. I tell you what, I'm getting one more. Hang on a second. Oh no, we're going to a break. You're quick on the trigger there, brother. All right, so Big Rig did his job right while I tried to just waylay him. All right, we're going to take a break. We will be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. I mean, making common sense like a superpower up in here. So, finishing up a bit on this segment called Cacistocracy. And by the way, y'all, I didn't even scratch the surface. I got a stack of cacistocracies, and I did not even get to all of them. But my soul at the examples that we have at every single turn. Cacistocracy to my left, cacistocracy to my right. God. Onward. All right, anyway, how about this one? Pulled the story from Daily Wire. You'll be happy to know the Biden administration is putting over $1 million into studies aimed at denying that there's only two genders. Well, now, go figure, your tax dollars once again at work. It says a federal government agency tasked with promoting scientific progress. Let me say that again. A federal government agency tasked with promoting scientific progress and securing national defense, is dumping nearly $1 million into an effort to make biology inclusive by denying that there's only two genders. I don't have a good explanation for this, but here's the background. The National Science Foundation is granting 3 institutions a large sum of money based on the claim that, here's the quote, you ready? On the claim that, quote, biology courses often inaccurately categorize sex and gender as binary. The study, titled Collaborative Research, a qualitative inquiry into sex-gender narratives in undergraduate biology and their impacts on transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming students. Blah, 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 blah.
AKA Cacistocracy.
That's exactly what it is. So basically what we got here is the government, with your tax dollars, trying to help scientists learn how to deny science. That's what that is. And that, by the way, is the epitome of cacistocracy. What else have I got here? Let me grab another one. How about, let's see, what do we want? Let's do this one. I'll do this one. Fox News story broke out 2 days ago. California Senate candidates are sparring over one Democrat's proposal for a $50 minimum wage. What do you do for a living? Well, I sack groceries. How's that going for you? Pretty freaking good. I make $50 an hour. School that. Monday night in California, several candidates vying for the open Senate seat had to deal with a question in their debate about raising the minimum wage to $50, an idea that one Democrat candidate has floated. Here's the quote, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. In the Bay Area, I believe it was the United Way that came out with a report that very recently, $127,000 for a family of 4 is barely enough to get by. Well, by God, maybe you should move. Oh, my soul. Anyway, that's twice I've said oh, my soul. Charlene hates it when I say that. Says, you sound like an old lady when you say that. Well, honey. Anyway, another survey very recently said $104,000 for a family of 1. How do you have a family of 1?
I don't know.
I'm reading it right there. A family of 1. Well, that's called being a dude.
Yeah.
Just like you're a bachelor. But now it's called a family of 1, I guess. Barely enough to get by. So it takes $104,000 for a dude living by himself, which is, by the way, now categorized as a family of 1. It's too hard. That's a quote, by the way. That's in quotes. Who's that from? This is Barbara Lee again. For a family of 1, barely enough to get by. For a family of 1.
A dude.
I am totally waylaid by that one phrase right now. Like I'm not even getting to the rest of the story. Anyway, $50 minimum wage. She follows up by saying, you ready for this? Just do the math. Of course, we have national minimum wages we need to raise to a living wage. We're talking about $20, $25. But I've got to be focused on what California needs. And the affordability factor is when we calculate this wage. How about this? Do the math. You're having a major budget deficit and you're driving businesses away already. Stop the madness. $50 an hour. But you know, the family of 1 will benefit from that. Don't you know?
That's crazy. Where's that at?
That's California.
All right. Well, I'm putting in my 2 weeks.
Yeah. Just stop right now. All right. How about this one? HotAir.com had a piece. By the way, that was cacistocracy at its finest. How about this? In the state of New Hampshire, the New Hampshire legislature has apparently authorized, officially sanctioned, embedded in law, I suppose, the opportunity for dudes to compete against chicks in sports and feel good about it. And tennis legend Martina Navratilova came out recently with criticism about that very thing, criticizing a male athlete competing in a women's sports event. And by the way, Martina Navratilova, thank you very much for this. And my recollection is, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school, my recollection is she's gay. She is not doing the whole transgender movement thing. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Navratilova noticed that somebody calling themselves Maël Jacques, a male athlete who identifies as a female, won the high school high jump event. A tweet about his victory notes that his 10-point score helped the Kearsarge High School girls track and field team jump to runner-up in the state among 25 teams. Well, I guess it did.
Of course he did. He's
of course
a dude.
it did. Exactly. By the way, he didn't just beat the record. He obliterated it.
Of course, he's a dude.
He jumped 5 foot 1 inch, which is an inch higher than any other girl, just any other girl. But oh, by the way, it's also 10 inches below the men's category. 10 inches below the men's category. So he's like, a failure as a dude, but boy's a winner as a chick. So kakistocracy in this case is allowing this to happen because here's the thing, and the story points it out, this guy is a sophomore. He's got 2 more years, it says, to deny a young woman a spot on the high school team and a chance to win championships. It's also a path to a college scholarship for many high school athletes, and they're going to have to do without because, New Hampshire says, hey, I think he's a girl now, so let's let him compete. Awesome. Never mind the fact that the Daily Wire also reports that a trans-identifying firefighter is suing the city of Philadelphia for refusing his insurance coverage for facial feminization surgery. Can't wait for that guy to come rescue us from a fire. The firefighter is also, by the way, a 55-year-old man who's been with the Philadelphia Fire for 28 years. And he says his Blue Cross discriminated against him on the basis of his chosen identity. Come on, people. Kakistocracy. All right, you guys have an amazing night. We'll be back here tomorrow for another amazing day. We'll see you then.